Hello, I'm Aaron Porter, he, him. I was a sabbatical officer between 2006 and 2008, first as VP Finance and Services and then as Academic Affairs Officer.
Hi, I'm Eswa Goldsmith and I am she and I am her. And I didn't always used to be called Eswa, I was Jane Goldsmith back in the day, but now I've adopted a shortened form of my African name, Eswanswa. And I was president of Leicester University Students Union in 1975 to 76, and I was the first black mixed race and the first woman president, so I'm very proud of that.
Hi, I'm Ian Bruce. I'm the Support and Representation Manager of the Student Union and my pronouns are he, him.
Hi, my name is Anne-Marie, my pronouns are she, her, and I was the Education Officer at the Union from 2021 to 2023.
My name is Kumaran, my pronouns are he, him. My current job title is Director of Membership Services. But it's safe for me to say I've pretty much done every job in the Students Union and also held most elected positions in my time here.
I have a very varied career now. I'm on the board of 2 universities, I'm a theatre trustee, I'm on a board of a healthcare regulator, I'm a school governor, and I also run a small company advising universities largely on their strategy and their governance.
Where am I now? Well, I'm in my little den at the bottom of my garden, formerly known as the Shed with a capital S. And this is where I do all my writing, thinking, all my Zoom meetings with people all over the world because I'm an international facilitator and strategist with human rights organisations. So it's a great place to be.
I started working for the union back in 2003 and that means I've been at the union for just over 20 years.
I actually work for the University of Leicester now. I'm based in London, but I travel around London and the Southeast doing student recruitment for our post-16s, just talking about all the lovely things that university has to offer and specifically the University of Leicester.
Yeah, so officially I have been working in the union for just over 28 years. But for my sins, I joined our university as an undergraduate in '86. So I think by rough calculations, that's about 38 years I've been part of this union in one form or the other.
The best bit of working in the Students' Union was actually meeting so many different students from all sorts of disciplines, all sorts of backgrounds. We had a really healthy relationship with the university, but we weren't afraid of campaigning. So really, I think it was the community that was fostered within the Students' Union that was my favourite element of the job.
It's got to be the politicking, the campaigning. I'm a real political person, always have been. And we worked on all the exciting, new and not so new issues of the day, really. Anti-apartheid, black consciousness, women's liberation, gay rights, along with all the other issues that were affecting students, like the grants campaign and the housing campaign and the cuts. You know, we had a similar situation where there was economic cuts everywhere which were affecting education. And it was a time, I think, in the 70s, which was a watershed, where we were rewriting the rules, tearing up the script, challenging everything, inventing new vocabulary, new concepts that were going to take us forward. And I think there's sometimes moments in history like that. And do you know, I think today is one of them, where we've got all of those challenges and more, you know, and it's a really amazing time to be a student.
My favourite part about working with the Student Union is that I get to work with lots and lots of fantastic students. I get to see them develop, get to help and support them in what they want to do. I also get to work with an amazing range of staff within the Student Union, which are all kind of fun, welcoming, and you get to really see them develop and often kind of get them ready for whatever their next big thing is, whether that's new courses, new jobs, new employment, but it's really, really great to see students develop and see staff develop as well.
My favorite part about working at the SU was how people-facing the role was. I really enjoyed talking to students every day, university staff members, SU staff members, members of the general community. I just really enjoyed being able to meet new people and talk to new people, and it made the job so much fun and very interesting.
My favorite part actually is coming into work in the mornings and don't feel like it's actually coming into work. I feel like I leave one family and I come to visit my other family. So the thing I really like about it is that I never look at my clock to say this is time for me to go home, because the day goes so well in terms of interacting and me loving my job. I think the best part of working here is the fact that it gives me tremendous job satisfaction.
The role of students' unions both here in Leicester and actually across the country has changed quite significantly in the 15 years since I've stopped being a SAB. Firstly, there's the hyperdiversity of students. Students' unions aren't just for the full-time undergraduate home students. There's a great number of international students. There's students with all different sorts of backgrounds, of learning styles, of different sorts of diversity, and ensuring that the students' union caters for all of their different needs and interests, I think, is a big change that I've seen here at Leicester and elsewhere. I'd also say that students' unions have had to focus as much on the representation of backgrounds and identity as much as on campaigning and partnership with the institution. It's a different balance to what I experience, but the great thing about student leadership is it should change as students change, and that's clearly at the forefront of what we're trying to do here at Leicester now.
Well, I think for me, one of the biggest changes since I left uni has got to be the diversity on the Leicester campus now. When I left, there was like 3,500 students, something like that. And I was one of only a handful of black students on the campus. And now I think Leicester is one of the most diverse campuses in the whole of the country, which is fantastic. 60%, I think, of our students identify as students of colour. And it's part of a big project to get the landscape to reflect what the student body now looks like. And more than anything, to see the first Chancellor and Vice Chancellor of colour in our history. And I never thought I'd be around to see that in my lifetime. So that's got to be a great privilege, and it's a wonderful thing to see.
So there's been many big changes. When I first started, it was much smaller than what we are now. It was basically a team of about 5 or 6 people in a department called Advisory Services, and that was primarily kind of the non-commercial part of the union. At the time, we ran all of the commercial outlets, so obviously now our focus is on kind of the student side of the experience. But I was going to be a bit cheeky and change the question a bit, because really I believe that it's all the smaller changes that we make, or the students make, that kind of really make the big difference. So when we say we're here for students and for them to make, for us to make their experience the best it possibly can be, that is really how we do it. By empowering our student volunteers, by empowering our student leaders to go and make that difference. So whether that's getting the 24 hours library, whether it's enabling fees and payments to come onto campus for drop-in sessions, whether it's distance learning mixes, self-certification for mitigating circumstances, free shuttle buses. They all sound not that big, or moving a deadline, or moving a piece of structure of a piece of work to make it slightly different, but all of those things together contribute towards hopefully students having a positive experience whilst they're here at Leicester.
So if I look at what the actual physical building of the Students' Union, it's gone through probably about 4 different redevelopments of varying sizes here. The two most recent ones are the ones I'm most proud of, because they actually significantly transformed the Students' Union into a modern space that is usable for our students. That's building-wise. I think people-wise and as an organization, I have seen our Students' Union evolve tremendously. So the students' union I walked into was smaller, but students had a lot more direct control over decision making and running. So in effect, I would say the union I walked into, the officers were the government ministers and the staff were civil servants. That's the union I walked into. The union I work for now is a professionally run charitable operation where officers are trustees of our board, but we have a chief exec and staff members leading and supporting the officers in delivering their objectives. That's a huge cultural shift that has happened in the past 30 to 40 years.
There were two big things that were the focus for the year. The first was securing the funding from the university for the first phase of the Percy G redevelopment. There's been another amazing phase subsequently, but we laid the foundations for what's in the building now. And the second thing, and this was a particular focus of mine given what I went on to do, was engaging Leicester with the National Union of Students. There was a big debate about the changes to tuition fees. That was something that was bubbling up when I was a SAB here at Leicester and then became the focus of what I had to deal with when I became president of the National Union of Students.
I had one big project. I might not have thought that in the day I was sort of feeling my way, but I think my big project, and it was very big, was to change the culture of the university and the Students' Union and later on the world. And I think I particularly felt that in my position. You know, I was a one-off. I was a first black mixed race woman president of the Students' Union. And so I was very visible and, you know, highly noticeable. And like any woman of colour who sticks her head above the parapet, I was much more open to being criticised and with a huge degree of scepticism as to whether I could do the job at all. And I can tell you, I had imposter syndrome big time, even before the word was actually invented. I really felt it. It was scary. Sometimes I felt sick, but I just thought I need to go on because I believe in this and I've got to find a new way of being a leader.
I think one of the key memories of working in and around the Student Union is where we've managed to kind of help and support students, whether that's with an academic appeal or whether it's they've had personal issues where they're taking time out, and when you've seen them come back and they've managed to complete or graduate from their courses, and when that seemed an awful way off, when they started to talk to you, it's massively rewarding to see them complete at the other end. So that's always been a rewarding aspect of the role. Other rewarding parts, looking back, is when we set up in partnership with the University Curriculum Consultants Project, so really looking at how we could make the curriculum more inclusive. And the third one is always one of my favourite, but it's the Superstar Awards, because it's such a simple thing that we do where students recognise what staff at the university have been doing, but it means such a lot to the staff who receive the Superstar Awards.
Okay, so I have two favorite projects and memories that I worked on. The first is De-Stress Week. I love De-Stress Week. It was so much fun to get to meet loads of different students, talk to them, pass out free fruit, snacks, hot drinks, goodies, just see how they were, how their exam season was going. It was just nice to put a little smile on their face by giving them some free food, and then in return, they made me smile by just talking and being lovely. My second favorite project was probably revamping the academic representation program. That was a really big project, and the thing I noticed when I first took the position in my first year was that our reps work above and beyond, way over their job description, and they're the only people that aren't paid to really be in that position. And so I wanted to reward them and say thank you for all of the hard work that they did and how they made education better at Leicester. So that was a really fun project. We got to design merchandise, we got to give incentives, payments, and it was really great to just give back to the reps and say, hey, thanks for all the hard work that you do.
That's a tough one. There's so many different memories. I think the moments I tend to remember are when students or officers tend to leave us. I look at how they were when they first started with us and how much they have changed, improved, become better people when they leave. Those moments are very precious with me. In terms of projects wise, there is so many to mention, but I would say for memory's sake, I was very proud of the Students Union's campaign to improve safety in Victoria Park. So for example, a lot of the things that happened in the Victoria Park to improve, stuff like planting of trees between Queen's Road and University campus, tarmacking the park and lighting, all of that happened as a result of Students Union campaigning, and all the campaigns were led by our students. That when you look at the trees, I remember how old I am now, which is a bit scary. I also remember in my slightly more radical days as a student here, I participated in a protest on tuition fees because those days university could rise international student tuition fees and there was no cap to it. So we marched from Percy G building to Fielding Johnson building, and somehow I was the only person to get inside Fielding Johnson building. Everybody else was stopped at the door. So there me standing on my own with a placard saying fair fees for international students, standing in there thinking what the hell am I doing? But it all turned out very nice, apart from the registrar coming to me and saying, Mr. Kumaran, you look ridiculous, don't you? And I said, no, I don't look ridiculous, I'm making a political point. So I stood there for a couple of hours and then I got invited to a meeting and university agreed for some concessions in the way they were putting up the fees. I'll probably say I remember that well, but that goes back nearly 40 years now.
I'll forever be grateful for the role that the Students' Union played in my own personal development and, truthfully, my career. Had it not been for the SU here and my getting involved in the Students' Union, firstly on what was Union Council as a JCR president and as editor of the student newspaper, and then as a SAB, I wouldn't have engaged with NUS, I wouldn't have become NUS president, and I wouldn't have gone on to have the career that I have now. I always retain that interest in students and representation, and that stays with me today. And it's for the people at Leicester, some of who are still here, many whose faces have changed, but the ethos of what the Students' Union stands for still stands strong.
Yeah, a couple of more things I would want to add is that it's delightful to see the diversity in all its glory that there is on campus, and that these days, students are much more free, I think, to define themselves and to understand our completely multidimensional identities. That's something I think is a real pleasure to see. I also wanted to add that we need more recognition of how important the Students' Union is. Yeah, my course was interesting, but really I got my education in the Students' Union. I learned about politics, I learned about how to debate with people, how to listen to people, how to get my point across to, a very large hostile audience. That's got to be all the stuff that you really need later in life, and that's really, really stood me in good stead. And so the recognition of the Students' Union as a really, really important part of university life, but also of our education, is a fantastic thing. And I think last thing I'd like to say is we never achieve things on our own. It's got to be collective. It's all of us that achieve this, and we're standing on the shoulders of each other.
Just that it's been a privilege working within the Student Union, working with and alongside students. It's massively enjoyable working alongside kind of the staff team, seeing students develop and staff develop. I always think it's an absolute privilege to work within the Student Union. So thank you.
The last thing I wanted to say was a massive thank you to all the full-time staff members at the union. I moved 3,000 miles away from home to go to Leicester and then taking this position. It was my first real full-time job, and I was scared and I was nervous, but the staff at the SU believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. They listened to my crazy ideas, they helped me make things happen. Every morning I was greeted with a smile and a hello. it was a family that I needed. It was more than just a job. So thank you for not only believing in me and helping me professionally, but also helping me grow as a person. Yeah, it will always be my home away from home. So
I think the main thing I would want to share about, I'd probably say how much I felt at home here overall, and how I would say this Students' Union, the people around here had become part of my life. I really enjoyed the fact that I had the privilege to work with over 180 full-time officers in my time, and they were all fantastic officers. Some were challenging in their own lovely ways, but I really enjoyed every element of it. And if I had my life all over again, the thing is, I would never change a thing about my involvement in our union. That's the bit I want to share, because it's a lovely place to work for.